Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to MTGO Traders. My name is Taryn, and this is the white-black zombie deck for Core Set 2019 Standard. So zombies were a thing a few months ago, and they went away for a while after rotation, and then now with Core Set 2019, zombies are back with a vengeance, crawling back up from their own grave. And we've got a bunch of new zombies from Core Set 2019 in this deck list, so let's hop right into it. Starting with the creatures, of course, we have 24 in total. This is a creature-based deck, as you know. We have Diregraph Ghoul, Dread Wanderer, Binding Mummy, and Wayward Servant. Now, a lot of these cards are from the Almond Ket block, but a new one is from Core Set 2019, and that is Diregraph Ghoul, a 1-mana 2/2 that enters a battlefield tapped. Now, you may say this doesn't do much, and it's kind of slow, but just like how Dread Wanderer doesn't do much and is also kind of slow, entering the battlefield tapped as well, a turn 1 2/2 is not bad at all, especially when we have Lords in the deck as well. Dread Wanderer is a 1-mana 2/1 creature zombie jackal. It is a battlefield tapped, and you can pay 3 if you have one card in your hand as a sorcery speed to return this from the graveyard to the battlefield. So super nice, really good on attack as well as block, and just a great way of getting in damage turn over turn without the need or desire to, or I guess fear of losing the creature. Binding Mummy is a great card for us, especially against the vehicle decks and artifact-based decks in Standard right now. A 2-mana 2/2. Whenever another zombie enters the battlefield under your control, you may tap target artifact or creature. The artifact here is super important, especially against the Karn decks coming out right now. I really love Binding Mummy in this list for that. And Wayward Servant is a 2-mana 2/2 that whenever a zombie enters the battlefield, we gain 1 life and our opponent loses 1 life. So since we have so many zombies, 24 in total, Wayward Servant is going to do a ton of life gain, life loss for our opponent and ourselves. Moving up to the Lords in the top curve, we have Death Baron, Lord of the Accursed, and Josu Vess, Lich Knight, the card from Dominaria. A 4-mana 4/5 with Menace. You can kick it for 6, making it a 10-mana creature here to kick. But when it is kicked, it comes in the battlefield and gives you 8 2/2 Black Zombie Knight creature tokens with Menace. So that's basically a game ender that does go off. But more often than not, it's just going to be a 4-mana 4/5 with Menace, and that is perfectly fine, especially with Death Baron's ability here. A 3-mana 2/2. Skeletons you control and other zombies you get +1/+1 and have Death Touch. Death Touch, guys. That is insane. Really love that ability for zombies. Lord of the Accursed, a 3-mana 2/3. Other zombies you other zombies you control get +1/+1, and you can pay 2 and tap the Lord, and all zombies gain Menace into end of turn. So another kind of like pseudo evasion tactic for us as well. Both of the Lords in this deck are at 3 mana. Death Baron being double black mana is a little more difficult to get off on turn 3, thanks to this being a white-black deck, but Lords nonetheless are super good in this deck list, and both of them are very powerful at what they do, giving us either pseudo evasion or just the ability to kill anything that blocks them. Very powerful. Let's move on to our spells here and talk about what we got here. Moving on with Liliana, Untouched by Death, so the new planeswalker from Core Set 2019. A 4-mana 4 loyalty +1. Put the top 3 cards of your library into your graveyard. If at least one of them is a zombie card, each opponent loses 2 life and you gain 2 life. -2 is target creature gets -X into end of turn, where X is the number of zombies you control, and -3 you may cast zombie cards from your graveyard this turn. Keep in mind, Liliana's ability can -3 the turn she's played, and that's super important. This is one of the reasons I really love her in this deck list, because not only can she do like a removal spell with her -2, also kind of gain its life and lose our opponent's life with her +1, but her -3 gives you the ability to kind of, restock your board state if you have enough mana to do so. So in the mid to late game, especially the late game, that -3 is super impactful. Vraska's Contempt, a complete 4-of. This is a black deck, or white-black deck after all. We really need some removal, and Vraska's Contempt is perfect for us, especially against the control decks, and the mono-blue kind of Karn decks kind of going around the format right now as well. And Liliana's Mastery, another great kind of like pseudo-lord for us, as well as giving us a wide board state. A 5-mana enchantment. Zombies get +1/+1, and when he enters a battlefield, we get 2 2/2 black zombie creature tokens. They don't have Menace, but they're still very important for our game plan, and stacking Liliana's Masteries turn over turn by turn 5 is super backbreaking and normally ends the match. But that's it for spells in the deck list. Let's go over lands really quickly. We have 24 lands in total, 12 Swamp, 5 Plains, 4 Isolated Chapel, and 3 Cabal Stronghold. Now, Cabal Stronghold is kind of here for the Josu Vess. However, I feel like after reflection and more testing and doing all the matches and everything, I feel like you probably want to go down to 2 Cabal Stronghold and do 13 Swamp, just based on like how the interactions are working. I think the Plains and the Isolated Chapel number is fine because we do need some of those for our creatures, as well as like a sideboard game plan if we want to get into sideboard cards. But besides that, I think we have one too many Cabal Strongholds because it does not give you black mana, and having 2 black mana at least on turn 3 is super important. Let's get on to the sideboard though and see what we have, since this was the full 60. Sideboard here we have Duress, Forsake the Worldly, Lost Legacy, and Plague Mare, a new card from Core Set 2019, basically a black Goblin Chainwhirler, 3 mana 2/2. It can be blocked by white creatures, and when it enters the battlefield, creatures your opponents control get -1/-1 until end of turn. Now this is really great, especially if your opponent has like Heroic Intervention in their deck, because -1/-1, if they have Indestructible with Heroic Intervention, they still die to the -1/-1. So Plague Mare is super powerful for that. Lost Legacy is here against the Esper control decks, Esper approach decks, that kind of stuff. Blue-white approach, super good card in that particular match. And Forsake the Worldly is here because we don't really have any ways to deal with enchantments or artifacts in black, and it's just a great card to do that. Exile target artifact or enchantment for 3. You can also cycle it for 2 if opponent does sideboard against you. Duress is also here for the control matchups, the mid-game matchups, making our opponent be able to discard, or we pick a non-creature, non-land card, and that player discards that card for just 1 black mana. The other cards in the sideboard here are Cast Out and Gonti, Lord of Luxury. So we could have brought in maybe a Settle the Wreckage, but the double white in this particular deck list is a little hard to hit. I really want to just kind of lean on just 1 white. And I think Cast Out is super good for us. Kind of another removal spell along the kind of the same lines as Vraska's Contempt, but has the ability to grab enchantments, artifacts, that kind of stuff too. It has Flash as well, which is very good for us for 4 mana. When it enters the battlefield, exile target non-land permanent and opponent controls until Cast Out leaves the battlefield, and cycling for 1 white mana. And then Gonti is just, he's Gonti. He's amazing. It's a 4 mana 2/3 legendary creature with Death Touch. That's good enough as is. But when it enters the battlefield, look at the top 4 cards of target opponent's library, exile one of them face down, then put the rest on the bottom of the library in a random order. For as long as those cards remain exiled, you may look at it and you may cast it and you may spend any mana as though it were any mana of any type to cast it as well. So if your opponent is on a more control-based strategy, Gonti is super good to bring in against that deck, as well as a mid-rangey style deck, a more grindy matchup. Gonti's really good against that style deck as well. But that is the full 75, folks. Let's go to the deck list here. We have the full deck list right here for you. If you want to build this on MTGO Traders or on MTGO, it's looking about 51 tickets, which isn't bad. And if you want to build this in paper, it's coming to about 163 bucks. The biggest price increases here are coming from the Vraska's Contempt and Liliana Untouched by Death. Both of those cards are spiking pretty hard. Well, Vraska's Contempt's kind of been around that price for a while, but Liliana Untouched by Death is kind of spiking a little bit thanks to the new found interest in zombies. It's a very powerful deck. I feel like the white, black, and black versions of zombies are super impactful and very, very powerful for the current standard meta. However, once rotation happens, this deck is going bye-bye. A lot of cards from this deck are, you know, from the Omnicat block, and that's just kind of sad. But either way, right now we have a ton of cards to actually have fun with and enjoy. But that's going to do for the deck tech, guys. Let's get into some matches and see how we do. Hello, everyone. It's Seth, probably better known as Saffron Olive. And we're back. I'm just kidding. I'm not doing that. The whole video. All right, we're doing some black-white zombies here. Hope you like that joke. Seth, I love you. That's coming from a place of love. We had a mulligan there. Coming for a Dread Wanderer on turn 2. Oh, man, that was fun. Opponent, I think, is on mono black aggro or mono black control, something like that. Hitting in for Dread Wanderer for 2 points of damage. Third land drop going for Glint Sleeve Siphoner. Then just a Death Baron coming in. We're crashing in for 6 points of damage. Death Baron, one of the best zombie inclusions in this deck list, along with Josu Vess as well, if we get enough mana out. Vraska's Contempt to Death Baron, though, does hurt us substantially. Kind of puts us back a few turns, but that's alright. We have Josu Vess coming out after combat here, getting in for 4 points of damage, dropping them down to 10, then getting out Josu Vess, and passing the turn back. Black-white zombies and mono-black zombies is super fast and aggressive, so if you don't have a way to deal with those lords, you're basically just dead. So Vraska's Contempt there really did help them a lot, but it's totally not a big deal because we have so many lords in the deck list. So, like this one right here, another Death Baron. Having Death Touch and Menace on Josu Vess there is ridiculous, and having Death Touch on our other creatures is also ridiculous. So they're going to go for the blood there, and lose 2 life, draw a card, don't hit anything, and then kind of fiddle around forgetting that Josu Vess has Menace for some reason. Yeah, moving around on targets here. But they finally go for the double block here, and they go, nah, maybe we'll just block these 2, and then take the 5 and go back to 2. That's totally cool, right? No problem. We have Dread Wanderer in the graveyard, we'll be reanimating that next turn since we have no cards in hand and 1 card on our turn draw. So their land or their enchantment flips to their land. So that's pretty cool. And they also have a Bondur's Last Reckoning, which clears the board. So bad news for us. However, we top deck a Liliana's Mastery, and this deck bounces right back. And they have, 2 lands to untap, or only 2 lands open for them. And they basically just die here. They have nothing to do, unless they had cast downs maybe, but they would still die, and that's it. So an easy game 1 for us. And let's get into some sideboard action, taking out Binding Mummy, and thinking about taking out Vraska's Contempt, but we think it's probably worth it to keep it in there. We're just going to say submit. We didn't see enough of their deck really to make a decision on that just yet. And that was my phone. Sorry about that, guys. Going to minimize that real quick. But yeah, getting into the next match here, or next game here. And opening hand, 3 lands, and that's a good keep for me. Liliana's Mastery in the opening hand too is super good, especially against a more control-heavy deck like this one. Very good at bouncing back from board wipes and stuff like that. Arc of Vraska is the play for them. They go with a pass here. We're going to go with the Dread Wanderer on this turn, and just pass turn. Forsake the Worldly comes up very little in this particular match. I believe we cycle it away because of the lands we need to hit. Hit a 3rd land and pass turn again, so they're really probably having like removal in their hand. So we got to get out Lord here. Fatal Push on the Dread Wanderer. Now for me, that's kind of a plus because it goes towards a card that we can get back easily. So no big deal there. The opponent's playing Gonti here, looking for a card off the top, but nothing really exciting off of that. Go for a land. Could go for a Vraska's Contempt, but do have Liliana here, so go for Liliana. Do the +1. Or -2, we could do just +1 here. We gain 2, they lose 2, and pass turn here. This does give them an alternate attack here because this Gonti is a Death Touch creature, so we don't want to block with the Lord here. Diregraph Ghoul coming in, that's the card that they stole from us. And they just hit Liliana for 2, dropping her down to 3, so we can't use her -3. Not a big deal, though. We have Forsake the Worldly or Vraska's Contempt. We could use the Contempt on the Gonti, and that's exactly what we do. Then +1 once again with Liliana. And pass turn holding up a blocker on that Diregraph Ghoul. If near deadlands on their side of the field, they can weaken the Lord if they want to. But they do have Battle of the Bridge in their hand, which does gain them life as well. And then they attack Liliana for 2 once again. So we really need a land. And we're like, you know what? We're just going to cycle this Forsake. And we hit a land. Awesome. Death Baron off the top. +1 on Liliana. Pass turn. Now we'll be able to play our Liliana's Masteries turn over turn and just do some crippling damage to them. Torment of Scarabs here. Now, one thing is, I have 28 life because of the Liliana here. We let it go through because we don't want our Death Baron to die. We actually sacrificed the Liliana. We could just take 3 points of damage here. That was a bit of a misplay on my part. But we hit Liliana's Mastery, get a Lord, another +1/+1, getting him for 3. And our other zombies on the battlefield are now 4/4s with Death Touch. So, Bondur's Last Reckoning again from opponents. And because we have multiple Masteries in our hand, it's no big deal. Just play those out again and have 4/4s on the battlefield again because we have 2 Masteries, because they stack. That card is incredibly good. Love this card in this deck. Another Torment of Scarabs. We're just going to take the damage again and play another Mastery and be like, you know what, we're just going to just bulldoze you. It doesn't matter. We're just going to get in for 10 points of damage and pass the turn to you. You're at 5, and that is it for that match. So, love Black-White Zombies. Let's get into match 2 here and see what we can do. In match 2. Another great opening hand, 3 lands. Diregraph Ghoul and Binding Mummy, so very nice for that. Liliana's Mastery in the opening hand on game 1 here is not necessarily wild about that, but it's fine. We can still get into a good mid to late game situation with the Masteries once we hit 5 lands. We do have 4 lands now, so that's good to know. And get in for 2 here, and then play out the Binding Mummy after combat. So we saw that tap there. I'm thinking that it's probably a Seal Away or a Fatal Push. Play the Binding Mummy regardless. And there it is. There's a Fatal Push killing the Binding Mummy. This deck, I believe, is a Black-White Knights deck. This is one of the hardest decks to go up against because of Knight of Grace, which is the card they played on turn 2 here. Or turn 3, I believe. Very good card for them. We're just going to pass turn. The 3/2 First Strike for 2 mana is just backbreaking against the zombie deck early in the match. Very powerful. As well as Paladin of Atonement with this deck. I'm not really sure how this card goes well with their opponent's deck, but I mean, it does things. It does things. Not too wild on it. But they get in for 3 here. The card I was thinking of they were going to play was History Benalia, but that's coming up in the future. Passing turn now. Going for a Paladin here. Activation. Alrighty. Vraska's Contempt on the Paladin, because that card can be wild if it goes for too long. And we have another Vraska in our hand, so we can use that on the Knight in the future, unless they play something else crazy. So Liliana's Mastery next turn is likely. History of Benalia is the card I was talking about, and there we go, a turn later. Very, very powerful, again, with the Knight deck, because it makes 2/2s, and it gives you entire board state +2/+1 later in the match, which is just devastating. We're going to go Mastery here, and make a 3/3, make 2 more 3/3s, and then crash in for 3. They're not going to block because they don't want to lose their tokens, because they want to get that +1/+, or +2/+1 from History of Benalia later in the match. So, not too upset about that. Sheffet Dunes from opponent. Tapping down here. 4 mana, going for an Ajani. Now, Ajani is a great card if you're ahead, a terrible card if you're behind, and they're kind of ahead right now, so getting 2 counters onto the 2 Knights, and then doing the Knight here that allows you to make another Knight basically indestructible if you sacrifice it. Although they didn't put it on the Knight of Grace. Very interesting, they put it on the token there. I guess they're thinking we have a board wipe ability. So we have Vraska's Contempt. We could use it on Ajani or just play the Mastery with Dread Wanderer. We opt to go for the Contempt on Ajani here. We kind of think about it for a second, but we do opt to go for Contempt on Ajani here because that +1 is super powerful if you're ahead like this. And we really need to make sure that we can bounce back once we play our second Mastery. They don't know we have Mastery in our hand, and they're going to try and go out for an all-out attack, hopefully clearing our entire board state, thanks to the Chapter 3 with History of Benalia. That card is super backbreaking. Hate that card a bunch. But opponent does go for, I believe it's Sheffet Dunes here. And then another Knight, giving another token indestructible. After that, there we go. Yeah, +1/+1 across the board. And then, yeah, another Bodyguard, basically. And then they go for all attacks with the exception of the one with the Summoning Sickness. And because one has First Strike, we're not really going to mess with that too much. But we are going to block the Knight here and then the token over there. So we are going to take a bit of a beating this turn. But it's substantially less than what we would want to take for this turn, so not too bad. Going down to 11 with First Strike. And then a little bit more down to 5. But that's alright. This deck is kind of good at gaining life back thanks to Liliana and Wayward Servant, getting out Liliana's Mastery, making 2 more creatures. We now have 4/4s on the battlefield. So they really need to get into a History of Benalia or a Banalish Marshal or something like that to kind of turn the table on us. But they're out of cards in hand. They're completely out, and we kind of have nothing but gas on our side of the field. So not bad on that. Lord of the Accursed coming in here, pumping our board state even more, turning them into 5/5s now. And we just kind of crash in with the Dread Wanderer because we can bring it back if we need to. So not a big deal there. That's the best thing about Dread Wanderer. Even if you're behind, you can still be on the attack. And they do block with the First Striker there. But that's no big deal. We're just going to bring it back. See, they go for another Paladin of Atonement. Kind of in an awkward situation with them because we really need to get through their creatures. First Strike and Knights are just kind of annoying in that way. But Binding Mummy is kind of here to save us on that. And then the Lord here making everything Menace is actually going to scoop it up for them. Opponent actually scoops up, and that's game. We bring in Forsake the Worldly and cast out, taking out Binding Mummy. And I believe we take out, yeah, some Lilianas here. So cast out Forsake the Worldly here are for the Banalish Marshal, or not Banalish Marshal, for the History of Benalia as well as Ajani. We take out, I think we bring back in Liliana. No, we bring back in Vraska's Contempt. Gotcha. We're taking out Liliana here because of the Contempts and cast outs themselves from the opponent. Bringing in Dread Wanderer on turn 1. Great turn 1 play. Then going for a Dread Wanderer play on turn 2. Really need to wipe mana for that cast out as soon as possible if we can get it, if we need to. No turn 2 play from them, though, so that's good for us. So we're just going to continue to crash in for 2 points of damage here, play out our Dread Wanderer, and drop them down to 18. And then normally you want to lead with Lord of the Accursed, but because the opponent might have History of Benalia and things like that, you want to play Death Baron first. There's Banalish Marshal here. Either way, whichever Lord we play here, we're going to get past on the damage for Banalish Marshal. So play out Death Baron here. The only reason I say play out Lord of the Accursed first over Death Baron is because the opponent might have some removal in their hand, and they're going to use it on your Lord. And Death Baron, I feel like, is a more impactful Lord in the early game, whereas Lord of the Accursed is a better Lord in the mid to late game. See, a cast out immediately came out and grabbed that Death Baron. So If we didn't have any other lords in our hand, that would have been devastating, but we do have another lord, and we just crash in again for 6 points of damage. So, Vanillish Marshal is really only good if you have stuff to go with it, and they block to save some life. Another land here. Looks like they're kind of out of choices. 4 cards in hand. They go with a pass here. I'm kind of expecting a Settle the Wreckage, so we play another Lord of the Cursed, and just attack in with one Dread Wanderer, being like, we know you have Settle, and they go, oh, mind games, that's it. So let's get into match 3 here, and see what we can do the final match of these matches here. Yeah, up against a blue-red deck. I believe it's an Is It Spells deck, which is pretty cool. Just playing a white mana and passing. Couldn't lay Isolated Chapel because it would have come in tapped anyway, so playing that Dread Wanderer on turn 2 is annoying, but kind of necessary, since we didn't get a black mana. That's one of the reasons why I think only having 2 Cabal Strongholds better than having 3. Playing Binding Mummy first because we can get in for attacks with the Dread Wanderer, or with the Binding Mummy after this, so they only play one other creature. Getting in for 2 here, we're going to let that hit us. Going down to 18, and they play out another Archer. Going to lay a land. Just get out Dread Wanderer, tap down their Archer, and we can either crash in here, which is what we're going to do, or we could have held up blocks. We want to be aggressive, so Liliana Untouched by Death in our hand does give us the ability to gain some life back. And 3 Archers on the battlefield is super terrifying because they can ping us for 3 points of damage just by casting spells. So we need to either play Vraska's Contempt next turn, but we do opt to hold it because we can't play right now thanks to Cabal Stronghold not being able to tap for black mana. So everything in our hand right now needs black mana badly. So we really need to top deck into a black mana this turn. There we go. Play the Healy Rye, do the Scry 1 and 1 damage to us. We're at 10 here. And then they just crash in for 7 points of damage. We decide to double block here. Their Archers are gone. We top deck into a swamp. Think our zombie lords. And we get rid of the Saheeli Rye there. Down to 9. But this is really where the deck starts to shine because of the Liliana here. One has 3 cards in hand. We go for Liliana's Mastery, I believe, to get some blockers up for the Ground Assault. Taking 1 point of damage in the air is substantial in this particular point in the match because we only have 6 life. They do have red in the deck, so I'm kind of expecting like Lightning Strikes and things like that. So we're within Lightning Strike range right now, so if they get into 2 of them, that's just game over. They play 2 more Storm Tamers and then a First Striker, and then get in for 1 in the air. We just let that happen because we can't block it. And then we play a land, go for a Wayward Servant first, and then a Liliana Untouched by Death right after that. To +1 and gain 2 life and lose 2 life. So more often than not, we're going to do that ability every single turn this match because we really need to kind of get some life back and stabilize our board state here. Opponent was super aggressive in the early game. It almost cost us the match, but we're trying to play this game really carefully, holding up blocks on that Ground Assault. And we're going to take 3 in the air this turn, but that's all right. We went up 2, so we're going to go down to 4. Still out of strike range. Going for another land here. Going Vraska's Contempt on a Storm Tamer. Even though Vraska's Contempt could be targeted towards the Archer or something like that, we really want to make sure that we grab a Storm Tamer because they can counter it by sacking another Storm Tamer, but that really doesn't matter to us. The only upside to that would have been is if we gained life on that, which we did not. We think about the +1 here on Liliana, which we can do, or the -2. So we decide to go +1 here to continue to gain some life, going up to 6, and then reanimating a Dread Wanderer, and then gaining another life thanks to the Wayward Servant. Opponent has 2 cards in hand, and let's see here. We could definitely go for a Liliana Untouched by Death if we hit another land next turn. That would be great. They continue to crash in for 2 in the air, driving us down to 5. So, still kind of a dangerous game here to play. -2, we're going to kill the Storm Tamer here to get just those flyers out of the way. We really need to make sure they're slowing down their assault. And then we play the second Liliana, hoping they don't have a negate or any kind of counterspell. And then just -2 again, killing the other Storm Tamer. So that's pretty good for us. And then next turn, we'll just go for Liliana's Mastery. So we have all of their flyers out of the way, reanimating the Dread Wanderer here. And that's kind of the biggest hurdle to get over. I'm kind of assuming that they have an Enigma Drake soon, and Liliana's -2 can handle that. in the future turns if they do play something like that. That's kind of what I'm assuming they have in their deck as well. But they didn't play it this entire game, so we'll see what happens in the following game after this one. A Lightning Strike to kill the Wayward Servant. Funnily enough, they probably had that in their hand for a while, so had we not been doing the Liliana +1, we probably would have been dead long ago. Go down to 5 there thanks to the Archer. They kill the Wayward Servant, and then they just pass turn here. 1 card in hand. They're kind of out of gas. However, we have tons of gas. We're going to go +1 here, take them down to 10, take us up to 7, and then go for the Liliana's Mastery. If we had 1 more mana, we would go Lord of the Accursed, but Liliana's Mastery really does help us out because it makes us more aggressive, being able to attack him with our creatures here. We have 2 Masteries on the battlefield, so we have 4 4s, and I think 4 3s there. Yeah, block with the Archer and the First Striker. Because First Strike doesn't kill the first time, they both die. They do get rid of one of our zombies, though. We're down to 2. We have a huge board state, and that is it for game 1. So, kind of a tight moment there for us. We bring in Plague Mare because a lot of their creatures have 1 toughness, and it is a just fantastic card for that particular situation. And bring in Cast Out for any kind of Saheeli Rai action. Taking out Jozu Vest, and then just hitting Submit. Going into game 2 here with a mana-heavy hand, but we do have a nice opening hand for land. Diregraph Ghoul on turn 1, Death Baron on turn 2, Wayward Servant on turn 2, actually, or turn 3, and then turn 2 for Wayward Servant. So not too bad. Usually getting mana-heavy hands here is dangerous, but we actually do all right. They play their 2/1 First Striker. We play the Wayward Servant and then just pass turn. 3rd mana drop here for opponents. If they just go with a Lightning Strike on the Wayward Servant. Servant can get out of hand quickly and slow them down a lot, so I do appreciate that opponent is kind of respecting the Wayward Servant. A lot of opponents don't, and they end up losing to it in the long run. We do play Death Baron and get in for 3 points of damage. They can't block that. They could block it, but it would mean the loss of their creature. They play a 2nd First Striker, which is not good for us because they can, double up on a blocker and just get rid of it. So we play Dread Wanderer here and just pass turn to the opponent once again. 4 cards in the opponent's hand, drawing into their 5th one here. Really need to get into a threat. They get into a Storm Tamer. Plague Mare off the top is exactly what we need. We play out Plague Mare, completely wipe their board, and just crash in for damage here. Ouch. Plague Mare is such a good card in black. It's basically Goblin Chainwhirler, but in black, and I love it. 4th land drop from an opponent here. They're down to 9. They play out the Mentor and another Harsh Mentor. I'm assuming they want us to use the Cabal Stronghold, but we're not gonna. Play the Diregraph Ghoul, get in for lots of damage here. They go with the double block, and then we get in for 3. Opponent's down to 6 here. And then we just reanimate a main phase 2 Dread Wanderer once again. So, again, Dread Wanderer is such a great card for us in zombies. Very, very good. I think I might actually close it out here. 2 cards in hand. That is it, guys. Alright guys, that is the full deck list with the matches. Hope you guys liked it a lot. Like it if you like it, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and make sure to hit that bell to notify you whenever we have a new video go on the channel. We normally post videos Monday through Friday, and I stream on Twitch Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 11 a.m. Central Standard Time, and I'll make sure to have a link in the comments below. But that's it for today, guys. I love you all, and I will see you in the next video. Peace. Thank you for watching the video. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to smash that like button. Subscribe to the channel for more awesome MTG content just like this, and make sure to tap the bell icon to be notified whenever a video is made live. If you want to keep watching content, here are 2 more videos for you. This video and many others are sponsored by MTGO Traders and Cape Fear Games. Buy and sell digital singles to build your online collection today with MTGO Traders, and get your paper singles, accessories, and much more from Cape Fear Games. Whatever your Magic needs, both places have you covered.